All right, look at these. Isn't that amazing? Look at what you've done on the large strips and just 2 hoopings. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? That's approximately a little bit less than probably 28 inches. 14.14 is 28, allowing for the start and stop. You're looking at least a good 26, 27 inches of stitching. Look at that. Oh, amazing. Okay, so we have 2 of those done. So put those off to one side. And then we have the 2 smaller versions, which if you look at this is the 10-inch to here and then the 7-inch. And what's amazing with this is you will never be able to tell in the quilt where you started and stopped. It's really cool how that's done. Just amazing. So cool. Okay, so now I'm going to put these off to one side. And now I need you to reload your hoop again. The same hoop, 9.5 by 14, with a piece of the poly no-show stabilizer. Now let's go to the screen cam and we'll change the design. Okay, so we're finished embroidery. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to let the carriage move. I'm going to clear the memory. It's just easier to clear it and bring the designs in again. So let's go to embroidery, flash, pumpkins, quilting design, and border. And now I'm going to bring in just the 14 inches, set. And now I'm going to move this over to the right. And you're saying, why are you going to the right instead of the left? Well, there's going to be a lot of extra stabilizer left over on this because we're not doing 4 strips on this now. We're only doing 2. So I'm bringing it to the right so that I will have all of my excess stabilizer off on the left side of my hoop, and I'll be able to actually use that for something else in the future. So I won't be wasting it. So I'm going to click Add, go back to Pumpkins and Potions, back to the quilting, and back to the Halloween border. I'm going to go back to 14 inches, click Set, and I'm also going to drag this over to the right side, trying to line it up with the first one, and give it a little bit of space in between. Alright, and then click Embroidery. And that will bring that in. Then I'm going to edit and hit the 3 thread button, make that go dark, click Edit, and you see it's rearranged the colors and the stitches so that it will do the placement lines for both of them first, then the tack downs for both, etc., etc., and I'm not flipping back and forth between threads. So then all of this extra space on this side will be the extra stabilizer that hopefully I can use for another round or another project, one of the two. All right, so let's go ahead and load our hoop with that poly and no-show mesh, and we can get started stitching again. Okay, so now I've got my big 9.5 by 14 inch hoop reloaded with a piece of poly no-show mesh stabilizer, and I've changed my thread so it's got white thread up on top. So now let's put the foot down and stitch out the placement line for the batting. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take one of the 14-inch long strips that we've pre-cut. I'm going to lay it down and make sure I've got all of that placement line covered on all sides. Put the foot down and let's tack down this batting. Then we're going to stop the machine before it starts over there. All right. stop your machine. And then I'm going to put the foot up so it doesn't accidentally stitch on my finger. Then I'm going to lay the next piece of batting down, making sure that it's covered that placement line. Put the foot down, and now let's tack down this batting. Nice, okay? So now I want you to take the hoop off the machine, go over to the table, and I want you to trim away all of the excess batting from around all four sides of that tack down line, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so now that we have those trimmed up, now we can leave white thread up on top and put the foot down, and let's stitch out the placement lines for both for the fabric. Nice. Okay, so now I'm going to take the hoop off the machine so I can get a little bit better angle here to show you how to do this next step. It's the same process as the last section, but now we're going to take the long side border. Look how much you've done. Isn't that cool? All right, we've got 2 hoopings left. So I'm going to lay the end of it down here. Right, there you go. You can see it. I'm going to lay this end down, and I'm going to drape the strip that's not sewn up and over the top, exposing the end of where we stopped this last time. So this is the quilted section. This is where the batting stopped at the last part of this block. All right, so now I'm going to take one of those pieces of tape that we rolled up from last time. I'm going to stick it on the end there. And then I'm going to line this ending where the batting is up here, making sure that when I lay it down, the fabric is also going to cover that placement line. Mush it right up against the end of that batting and put it down. Then I'm going to hold that with my finger, and I'm going to drape the unstitched fabric down, and then I'm going to tape with my big fingers here that fabric down so that it doesn't move while I maneuver the hoop. Then I can lay the fabric down, making sure that it's covering both of those stitch lines. Take another piece of tape and tape that down. All right, so that's good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the second one. As long as I'm sitting here, let's do the next one. So put another piece of that rolled up with a sticky on the outside down. And now I'm going to grab the next long, amazing border. I'm going to flip that fabric up again, right up against the edge, so I can feel where the batting stops. Okay. And I'm going to angle it down so I can make sure that it's going to cover the placement stitches on both sides, and that the batting is right up against, oops, you can always bring it up if it's not right, because you want the batting to be right up against that new piece of batting that we put down. Okay, when you have it in place, bring it down. You can feel for the batting. You can feel it where it's right up against it, so it's smooth. You don't want a ridge in between. If you have a ridge in between, then take them up and reposition them. But if you have a smooth feeling connection, that means you have the batting right up against each other, and that's what you want. Okay, so I'm going to get a couple more pieces of the tape that I used from the last time. That'll keep that in place. Then I want to make sure that I cover that placement line on all sides. And get another couple pieces of tape and tape that down. Okay, so now they're both ready to tack down. Okay, so very gently put the hoop back on the machine. Make sure you've got the stitched part out of the way and your extra stabilizer out of the way. And these ends are not that long, so I can just let them drape over the end of the hoop. And we are going to leave white thread up above, and now we're going to tack down this fabric. You ready? And I won't stop it between the two unless I see it might catch some of the fabric along the way. If you want to be sure, then just stop it as it starts the next one. But you don't have to, because we've got both of them in place. Let's go. All right, you're getting the hang of this, right? Yes, you are. So I'm just going to go ahead and take off the tape. All right, that looks really good. Okay, so now here comes the fun part. We're going to switch out our thread, and we're going to take the white thread out of the top of the machine, and now we're going to put the same color thread that you used up here, which for me is the variegated thread, and you're going to put that in the top of your machine. Okay, we're ready to go. Each one is a 3-minute in real life stitch out. So let's put the foot down and stitch this out. Enjoy. That is so cool. All right, so now I want you to take the hoop off the machine, and I want you to take it over to a table. Go ahead and take all the tape off of it, and then I want you to trim away the excess stabilizer only. Don't touch the fabric. Don't touch any of that. Just trim away the excess stabilizer, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, look at this. This is how much you'll have now. Look at all this. Isn't that amazing? We have about one 14-inch section left. All right. So I've got the two long pieces. I'm going to set them off to one side. And now I want you to go hoop another piece of that poly no-show mesh stabilizer and your hoop. Okay, so I have another piece of the poly no-show mesh stabilizer in here. This is a little bit closer than what I like to do, but this is the leftover piece from that last hooping because we did the design on the right side. I was able to just squeak it. It's a little bit closer than what I normally prefer, but I'm going to go for it because that way I would be able to use the same piece of stabilizer for two hoopings. Pretty cool, huh? We don't like to waste materials. No, we don't. Okay, let's go to the screen cam, and I'm going to click on OK because it's finished embroidering. Now, the cool thing with this last hooping is you don't have to change a thing. We are doing two more of those 14 inches, and it literally is in position to start stitching, because when you finish, it goes back to the beginning. So we're ready to stitch. We don't have to do anything to it. How about that? Cool. Let's go back to the hoop cam. I need to put white thread back in the top of my machine because I just took out my variegated thread. So put white thread back in the top of your machine. And why do you say white? Well, my fabric is white. So you want to match the color thread to the color fabric that you're doing all the way up to the point where you're quilting. All right. So let's put the foot down and let's stitch out these placement lines for the batting. You got this. Okay, so now we're going to put down the batting, making sure that it covers all of that placement line. A little bit on top, a little bit on the bottom. We're good. Let's put the foot down and let's tack down this batting. You got this. Stop your machine, put the foot up, and then we're going to place the next piece of batting down. And don't worry if this one overlaps in it a little bit. You can push it up to give yourself a little bit more maneuvering space. There we go. Let's tack down this piece of batting. Okay, so now I want you to take the hoop off the machine. Go to a table and I want you to trim away all of this excess batting from around the outside edge of both of those sections, and I'll meet you right back here. Alright, so now I've got that batting trimmed up. So let's put the foot down and stitch out the placement line for the fabric. I still have white thread up on top that matches my fabric. Alright, so now I'm going to take one of the long borders that we've been working on. We only have one hooping left. And I'm going to put it down and I'm going to fold that fabric that's unstitched over. Okay, now I've got a seam in here. I'm going to let it go off to one side. That's fine. Then I'm going to take one of those double-sided little sticky pieces of tape that we have. We can still use them because they still stick. And I can feel the batting. Alright, you can take this hoop off the machine and go to a table and do this. So again, I'm going to angle this so that I can definitely see that my fabric is going to cover all of that stitch line. And I can feel the end of the batting from the completed block. And I nestle that right up to the start of that batting there. And then I'm going to hold it down with my finger. I'm going to pull the unstitched fabric forward. And then I'm going to get a couple pieces of tape. And I'm going to tape the side of that on each side so it's down. Now I've got a seam here. It's down, so I'm also going to tape that section on each side. Because actually a smaller piece of tape. Here we go. Because I want that seam to stay down. Okay. Then I can come down here. Again, making sure the fabric covers both sides. And then I can put another piece of tape down here. Alright. So that one's ready to go. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm actually going to let that go off the table. And here is another wonderful long piece. Look at this. Isn't that amazing? I love doing that. It's so much fun seeing all that work that you've done so far. Okay, so I'm going to fold it as well. Put it up a little higher so you can see it. I'm going to fold it as well so I can feel the end of the batting right there. Okay, then I'm going to angle it so I can definitely see that the fabric is going to cover both sides of that placement line. I'm going to lay it down so the batting is nestled up against each other. I'm going to hold it down with my finger, bring the unstitched fabric forward. It moved a little bit. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay, it still looks good. We get a piece of tape. Let's tape that down. Okay. And make sure the fabric is flat up here. Okay, I've got a seam. The seam wants to go that way. I want it to go the same way as the other seam, so it not lies nice and flat. Probably doesn't have to go the same way, but I like it to go the same way. All right, and that's taped down. Then I'm going to go down here a little bit and put one more piece of tape on each side, just to help keep it in place. All right, and now we're ready to go. I still have white thread up on top. Now we're going to stitch out the tack down line, which will tack down these two pieces of fabric. You ready? We're almost done. You can do this. Okay, it grabbed my tape. So I'm just going to put the foot up, unstick my tape, and put the foot back down and keep on going. Okay, so now I can take the tape off, so I don't need it anymore. Okay, so I got the tape off. Let's trim some of the ravel right here so it doesn't grow. There we go. And I've switched out my thread up above, and I put my variegated thread back in because now we're going to do the last quilting on this border. Isn't this cool? All right, so make sure you've got your quilting thread up on top. And let's put the foot down and let's stitch this out. This is another 3-minute each stitch out in real life. Here we go. We're almost done. My bobbin thread is almost out. All right, so I'm going to cut my thread. Okay, and I'm going to take the hoop off very carefully and all of my tails along with it. And I'm going to put in another bobbin. I don't need much. So I can take one of these partial bobbins. That would be good. Because I'm almost done stitching, so I don't need a whole lot. I just need enough to get through the next inch or so. And now I'm going to put the hoop on, but I have to make sure I have both tails out of the way. Gently put the hoop back on. And then I'm going to back up the machine just a couple stitches. Here we go. I don't want to do it a lot. I just want to do it a few because it'll change my variegated thread a little bit. So I just want to go back. Let's do 5. Okay. That looks good. Click OK. All right. And that, again, I just did the plus and minus key. I went back 5 stitches and then I clicked OK. And now we're back in business. So let's put the foot down and let's finish this up. Perfect. Hey. That's so cool. All right, we are done stitching out these 2 side borders. So now I want you to take the hoop off the machine, take the stabilizer out of the hoop, and trim away the excess stabilizer, just like we've done on all the other hoopings. Don't touch the fabric yet. Just trim away the excess stabilizer, and then I'll meet you over at the table, and I'll show you how we're going to finish up these borders.